So next, we are going to look into few examples. Okay, so what is actually feature? What is actually a label? You're able to hear me, right? Right. Okay. So this weight in terms of grams is called a feature. So this is the feature one, and texture is feature two. Texture tells about the fruit surface, whether it is a rough surface or a smooth surface, and based on that you are deciding whether it is a label. Okay, the label indicates whether it is a orange or an apple. Okay, so this is the data. It's simple data just to make you understand. Okay, the real data, real life data may not be so simple or so easy like this, but you will have a complex data. Here, just for simplicity, we have taken the apples and oranges data set. Okay, you have the weight and texture. This is called feature one. This is feature two. This is column one, column two. It's a dimension one, dimension two. Okay, like that. Getting? So if you draw this, as you have only two dimensions, right? So if you project them, if you project this into in on two-dimensional plane like this, you are projecting onto two dimensions. The x dimension is your weight on x axis. And this is your texture. So two dimensions, two features means two dimensions, right? One dimension is x, one dimension is y. That is your weight, and that is your texture. The weight, let us take, it is starting from, this is 100, 110. Okay, so we don't have, so this will be 100, and this is 120, and this is 140. Just assume this is 160, 180, and 200. Okay, and this will be your uh, texture smooth, and this is texture rough. Okay, this is a smooth, this is rough, this is smooth, this is rough. Okay, now if you take the samples, how are you going to project? If you take the samples, okay, so 155 rough, where it could be, so this will be 100, this is 120. So it is in the 20 multiples. Let us assume this is in the 20 multiples. 120, 140, 160, 180, and 200, 220. Let us assume that. So 155 means it's a rough and 155. Approximately I'm drawing, so don't get confused. So as it is rough and 155, so let us assume here is one sample. 180 and rough. So for example, here is one sample. 135 smooth, 135 smooth. That could be your this one, right? And 110 smooth again, that could be your this one, right? So like this, you have different samples. Definitely you will find like this, right? Definitely you will find like this. So it is a synthetic data. I mean, some data I'm taking. So you find the samples like this, correct? You find the samples like this. Yes. Okay, let us assume that you have taken this. Now, these are all what? These are all your apples, and they are oranges. Okay, oranges. Now, this is called projection. This is called plotting or projection. You are plotted or you are projected. Okay, ideally they should come in one line, because the smooth and rough, you have only one well, so they should come in one line here. They should come one line here. Okay, here they should be in the line like this. They should be in the line like this, but just for simplicity I have taken like this. But anyhow, you can you have to find out the decision boundary. You have to find out the decision boundary. Like this you will plot, and you will understand that okay, there is some space where I have to fit a line, like this, which differentiates apples to oranges, which differentiates from apple to oranges. Okay, so this is what you are going to do: understanding the data, projecting the data, and looking into your data set, how the features are correlated, how features are related or correlated, and then you are going to find out whether you can classify or not. Whether you can classify or not. Okay, so this is called your projection. So similarly, you have the other examples. Now, this is what we are looking now. This is what we are looking now. So I am projecting the data. I am projecting the data, apples and oranges. So where apple goes, where orange goes, we are seeing here. So this is your apple. It is projected here, and this is another apple you projected here. We are not considering the color here. We are only considering the sphericity and weight. Sphericity and weight. Okay. So based on that, you projected this data, and now you are going to classify this. You are going to classify this. This is another example. So what kind of classification algorithms you can use? A simple examples we are taking KNN, and the KNN means the K nearest neighbors. KNN means K nearest neighbors. K nearest neighbors. What do you mean by K nearest neighbors? It is like, tell me who are your friends. I will tell you what kind of person you are. Tell me who are your friends, and I will tell you what kind of person you are. Okay, that's a K nearest neighbor, right? Maybe in a college, you might have seen the same set of, same set of mindset people will be forming a group. If you observe any group, in that group, the same set of mind people will be there. Same set of mind people will be there. Okay, so they can be studious people, or there can be enjoying, relaxing people, or there can be lazy people. Okay, so you see that. So K nearest neighbor means you will find out the nearest neighbors, and then you will say. So this is unknown example. So this is your unknown example. This is your unknown example. This is unknown example. The label, unknown means label you don't know. Labels, you don't know the labels here. Okay, you have to find out these labels. Okay, you have to find out these labels. So how can you do? You take the nearest people. You take the nearest people like this. You take the nearest people, 3 nearest people. As it is 3 nearest people are oranges, so this data sample might be orange. Okay, so here if you take the 3 people, 1 is apple and 2 are oranges, so this can be a orange. If you take this, the 3 nearest 3 apples are there, so this can be an apple, right? So here if you take the 4 nearest, for example, 4 nearest, out of 4, you have 3 oranges and 3 oranges, 1 apple, so it can be orange. So this is one type of classification. This is how you are going to do. Again, we will study in depth in KNN later, just giving you some overview. Understood? In a layman terms, how can you classify as a layman? We are just trying to look into that angle. Okay, right. So next, similarly, you can apply another technique, that is the logistic regression. That is the logistic regression. What are you going to do? Like, we know that in the logistic regression, we draw a line. We draw a decision boundary or decision line like this, okay, which identifies, okay, left to this line is they are apples, right to that is they are oranges. Okay, one strategy is to find out the k nearest neighbors. Another strategy is to draw a decision line like this, and you can left, okay, you can find out if this where is this unknown sample is located. Is it left to this or right to this? So most probably, if you apply, if left to this in the y is equal to mx plus c formula, so this equation, the line equation will be y is equal to mx plus c, right? This is how your line is. And what are m and c values? You will find out when training. While training, you will find out m and c values. And x value, you know, you will pass the x value. You have to find out the y value. When after you get the y value, this y value can be, it's a negative value or it can be a positive value. Okay, if it is a negative value, most of the times it will be left to this line. Most of the times it will be left to this line. If it is positive, it will be right side of the line. Okay, so based on that, you are going to, based on this negative positive, you are going to identify if the y value, predicted value is negative, it will be apple. If it is positive, it will be orange. It will be orange. Again, in layman terms, you draw a line and you say the data sample, test sample is left or right. Based on that, you decide what class it is. Understand? Yes, no, maybe. Again, we will see in depth how you find m and c values. How do you fit this line? So these things we will see in detail. Right? Okay. So this is what we have seen so far. Okay, so you have the classes, set of classes. You are going to draw a decision boundary, which is a logistic regression for classification. Now, so how do you train? We are all every time we are talking training the model, testing the model. How do you do that? Training the model, testing the model. How do you do that? Okay, in the training data, you will have the labels. You will train a machine learning algorithm, and after the algorithm is trained, you will pass the new data and you get the prediction. You get the prediction. So what are the steps in machine learning pipeline? You have to collect the data collection and preparation, feature selection and feature engineering. That's what we have seen. Choosing the machine learning algorithm and training our first model. How to train this model, we are going to see now. Evaluating the model, that means how exactly it is working on the unseen data. What is seen data, what is unseen data, we are going to see now. Okay, and if it is not working fine, how can you improve the accuracy? By doing the regularization, hyperparameter tuning. This may be new terms to you, but you will understand over the period of classes. Okay, so simple example we will take. This is the iris data set. This is a famous data set. Okay, whoever getting into data science, definitely they start working on this iris data set. Okay, so iris data set is a flowers data set. You have the petals, you have the sepals. Okay, if you are familiar with this flower, it's okay. Otherwise, okay, imagine that our own flowers, we have rose flowers and other flowers. Imagine them. Okay, you have the petal, you have the sepals, and you have the petal width, petal length, sepal width, sepal length. So they are the features. Sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width are the features, 4 features. Okay, so this is the petal, and this is called petal width, and this is called petal length, and this is sepal, and this is called sepal width, and this is the sepal length. So this is the flowers data set. Okay, so in this data set you have 4 features like this, 4 features like this. So they are called features or attributes. So that there are different terms, right? Features, attributes, measurements, dimensions, all are equal. In the down you can see, here you can see, right? All are equal. How many features you have? How many features you have? 4 features, right? Next, how many samples you have? In iris dataset you have 150 samples. Total 150 samples. They are called instances, observations. Okay, there are multiple synonyms again. The synonyms are instances, observations, records. Okay, records, samples, all are same. Understand now? Next, this one we are not talking. Okay, this one is the 5th column. 4 features are there. This one is the 5th column, and this is called class label. This is called class label. What does this class label say? What does this class label say? If you have sepal length 5.1, sepal width 3.5, petal length 1.4, petal width 0.2, then it is a setosa flower. Then it is a setosa flower. If you have 6.4 sepal length, 3.5 sepal width, 4.5 petal length, 1.2 petal width, then it is a versicolor flower. Versicolor flower. Okay. Similarly, 5.9, 3.0, 5.0, 1.8, this is called a virginica. So how many classes are there here? How many classes are there here? Total? You have how many classes? How many classes you have? 4. Unique classes. The classes means unique, we have to find out, right? Unique. It's not this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. It's not like that. How many classes means how many unique values in the label data set, in the label column, in the label column. So total 3 are there. Setosa is 1 class, versicolor is 1 class, virginica is another class. Okay. So now the iris data set overview is number of samples. How many samples are there? You have 150 number of samples. Okay. Next, number of features. How many features you have? How many features you have?
4.
4 features. And the number of classes. How many classes you have?
3.
3 classes. Okay. So this is the summary of the iris dataset. Okay. Summary of iris dataset. Now you can load this dataset. Okay. You can load this dataset. There will be a file called iris.csv, or you can find a iris.xlsx Excel file, or you can find iris.dat file. So this file can be in any format. It can be a CSV file, Excel file, or DAT file. It can be in any format. Okay. You are going to load that file by using pandas. Okay. If it is a CSV file, you know that pd.read CSV, you use function. This function you use. Okay. If it is a Excel file, you do read Excel, and you pass the path to that and you load, right? After you load them into data frame, okay, if you print the data frame shape, df.shape, what answer you get? Can anyone tell me? After you load this file, CSV file, for example, you load into data frames. That will be loaded as a data frame. If you look into that data frame shape, what kind of result you get? What will be the output? Can anyone guess? Exactly. You have to run only these two. Read and shape. That's it. Read and shape. That's it. What value you get? Exact value I'm asking. Roughly you can expect, but what value? Nobody got correct answer. So far I didn't get any correct answer. 12. One answer I got. No. No 4,3. No 12. No 50,6. No 50,4. One answer you get. Okay, that is no 1,1. Why 1,1? 4,3. I don't know the reason behind that, but ideally you get the answer will be 150, 5. 150, 5. This is the one you get if you load the data set. So it depends on the data set also, but in most of the times, ideal case I'm taking 150, 5. Can you tell me now what is 150, what is 5? Everyone correctly said 150 is number of rows or number of samples, and 5 number of columns. Okay, 5 number of columns. So this 150 will be taken as rows. This 150 is taken as rows, and this 4 is taken as columns, but plus you also have the label. Plus you also have this class label. You also have the class label. That's why it will be 5. 4 plus 1, it is 5. Okay, so that's what you got here, 150, 5. Understand now?
How about the index, the first row, first column?
That is the index. It doesn't come into your data set. It is only to extract the values you use.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that we don't consider as the feature. If you add exclusively to the column, that is not the column, right? That is the index you are saying. You are only saying that is index. It's not the column.
Okay. No, but because like see, you're just loading the file, right?
Yeah.
So if that file and has this the record index number as well, so once you load it immediately, it might have that column as well. That's my question.
If that has the column, then you can say that's a part of column. That is a part of feature.
Okay. So yeah, because I did not see the CSV file, so I assumed it is 150 and you're getting 6.
Right. But I explained here, right? The CSV, how does it look like? Iris dataset. I explained here, right? Only you have the 4 features.
Okay. Sorry.
150 rows.
Okay.
4 features, and number of classes are 3. So out of this, I asked you to predict what is the value that you get. Okay.
Okay.
So this is how you get 155. Okay, 150, 5. So this indicates every time when you get this kind of answer, it indicates that it is number of rows, number of columns. Number of rows, number of columns. Got it? So any example you can take. Okay. So there is another the popular data set. So the Iris is the popular data set. That's why we could take the example and say, okay. But if you take MNIST example, so you will have 60,000 train samples and 10,000 test samples. 60,000 train samples and 10,000 test samples. Now, what do you mean by this train and test? Okay, they are images. They are images. What is this train and test? Okay, so here you have 150 rows, right? So typically we divide this 150 into train and test split. We divide them into train and test. Okay, because you have to train the model. When you are training the model, after you train the model, you have to test also how it is working. This is what happens in the school, right? So teachers, they will give you few questions to read. Okay, and to understand your concepts, they will give some more questions. in the final exam, which may not be exactly same that you read, but it is similar to that. Whatever you read throughout the 1 year will be different, and whatever the questions you get in the final exam will be different. Typically, you can take IIT JEE exam or NEET exam, right? So those questions may not be equivalent to whatever you have read, but they will be similar to that. So that is train and test. Now to train your model, out of this 150, you will take 80%. 80%. So what will be 80% of 150? 120, right? So 120 samples you take. 120 samples you take train, and you will test on the remaining samples. Remaining 30 samples you will test. Remaining 30 samples you test. Got it? Now train and test, what do you mean by that? Okay, so what will be this shape now? What will be this shape? It should be 120 by 5 ideally. 120 by 5. And this will be your 30 by 5. Correct? 30 by 5. Yes, no? Right? You can tell me in the chart. Right? Okay, you got this. So this, on this you are going to train, on this you are going to train, on this you are going to test. Okay, sometimes you also find validation data. Sometimes you also find validation data. So this is train and test, right? Sometimes you also find validation data. So in the validation data, what you can do is you will train the samples from train only. Test already it is fixed. You have taken these 30 samples, you don't touch. Validation data you will take from train again, and you do split. You do split on this. So validation, now you will take 20 samples for validation, 20 by 5. Okay. So in that case, your train will become how much? 100 by 5. Clear? If you divide, if you have validation data also, then your train will become 100 samples only. So this will be 100 plus 20, 120 plus 30, 150. Total 150 samples and 5 columns. Got it now? How are you splitting the data to train, test, and validation? This is optional. Okay, this is optional. We don't see this much. When you are training the deep neural networks and other, then only you see most of the times validation. Wherever you have the hyperparameter tuning, wherever you have hyperparameter tuning concept, then only you talk about validation data, because you are going to tune these parameters on the validation data. Okay, so the data set will be divided into 3 parts: train, test, and validation. But most of the times we see this splitting only, train, test, split only, because we don't see much hyperparameter tuning in our regular classification techniques. Is this clear now? Yes, no, maybe? Any doubts so far? Okay, so I'm going to clear this. We'll go to the next slide and see. So this is the data looks like, actual data. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and the class. The class is Irisa setis, setosa, iris setosa, like this. 0 to 50, and the 50 to 100 is versicolor, and 100 to 150 virginica, like that. Okay. So coming to the plotting, if you want to plot, you can do the plot. This is the box plot. You are plotting based on the features. So first feature is sepal length. Second feature is sepal width, petal length, petal width. You are doing the plots. Box plot you are doing on the features. This is the importance of the features. This is part of your EDA. Okay, exploratory data analysis. Okay, so visualizations. In this, what you do is your visualizations. If you want to explain about the data to your boss, okay, explain to your boss. What do? If you talk in terms of numbers, he may not understand. You have to talk in terms of graphics, figures. So for that, you are going to draw these figures. Okay, so this is my feature looks like. This is how my feature looks like. So you are going to draw the feature wise box plots. Okay, so sometimes we call this part of things we call, sometimes this part of things we call outliers. Not exactly that, but sometimes you call whatever it is beyond the quartiles, Q4 quartile. Okay, so this is called a outlier, and this may also call as outliers. So like this, you are going to find out, are there any outliers? That is also one of the importance. When you draw them, you can see whether there are any outliers or not. Okay. Next, so you are drawing the histogram here. How many values are there? Okay, from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and 2 to there. So how many values are there? This is the number of count you can see. And you see a pattern here. Can you see a pattern here? Can you see a pattern here like this? The data distribution like this? Can you find a data distribution like this? Right? You don't find here. This is not like that. Okay, you only find for these two. So this is called Gaussian distribution. This is called Gaussian distribution. Okay, just to remember this point. Okay, so if your data is projected like this, if your data is projected in this fashion, this is called a Gaussian distribution, right? Typical example will be, you take the marks and the number of people got. This is x-axis marks, y-axis number of people got. Typically you see this is right, this is average people, this is average marks. Okay, in the class many students gets, and they are the brilliant students, they got highest marks, and they are the poor people, poor students, weak students, they got these people. Okay, you find the few exceptional students, few intelligent students here, and you see few weak students this side, and most of the times you see the average students here. So this is called a Gaussian distribution. Okay, so this kind of distribution, if you see, if you see this kind of data, it's a Gaussian distributed data. Okay, just try to understand that. So here, this is called pair plot. You are plotting, you are checking the correlation. You are checking the correlation among the features. What is, how sepal length is correlated to sepal length? How sepal length is correlated to sepal width? How sepal length is correlated to petal length? How sepal length is correlated to petal width? Okay, this is called correlation. Can you observe this? I will ask few questions. Just observe this for a minute. Okay, now what kind of matrix you see here? How the features are related to each other you are checking. How the features are related to each other. What kind of matrix is this? Can anyone tell me what kind of matrix this one is? Diagonal matrix? No? We'll stop in few minutes. We will, yeah, it's 4 by 4 matrix. No, I'm asking the nature of this matrix. Nature of this matrix. No, I'm asking how sepal length is related to. This is sepal length, right? how sepal length is related to sepal width, for example. How sepal length is related to sepal width can also be defined as how sepal width is related to sepal length. Both are same, right? How x is related to y is same as how y is related to x. Yes or no? How x is related to y is same as how y is related to x. In terms of features, I'm talking. In terms of features. In terms of features. Yes or no? How feature x is related to feature y is same as how feature y is related to feature x. Right? Both are same, right? So this is a symmetric matrix we call. Am I right? It's a symmetric matrix, right? The relationship between sepal length and sepal width will be same as the sepal width, where we have the sepal width and sepal length. So this is equivalent to this. This pattern is equivalent to this pattern. And this pattern is equivalent to this pattern. This is equivalent to this. Okay. So here you can see, right? This is equivalent to this and this is equivalent to this. Okay. So here you can plot only the upper, triangular matrix or lower triangular matrix. This is a symmetric matrix, right? It is a symmetric matrix. In the symmetric matrix, the values are same to the diagonal. This is a diagonal. To the diagonal, the values will be same on the left and right. That is called a symmetric matrix. So you can take a upper triangular matrix or lower triangular matrix. That means if you observe this, only this part. That means if you observe only this part. This part. So this part will be same compared to this part. Okay. So here you find one correlation. If you see, petal length and petal width are highly correlated, right? You can see the data distributed like this. Yes. So far we have seen this kind of data distribution, right? Yes, no. The petal length and petal width. The data, it has a strong correlation. It's a positive correlation. Some here also a little bit, but okay. Here also there is a correlation, that is sepal length and petal length. Sepal length and petal length also has some kind of correlation. It's a positive correlation, right? It's a positive correlation. What is positive and negative correlation? This is called positive correlation because you are increasing x, your y is also increased. Y is also increased. Okay, and this is a negative correlation. Negative correlation means as you are increasing the x, y is decreased. Negative correlation. You are increasing the x and y is decreased. This is a negative correlation. And this is a positive correlation. And here if you see this, there is no correlation, no increase or no decrease. Okay, this kind of, this one if you see, there is no much correlation, no much, I'm saying no much correlation. Okay, compared to this one. So this is a positive correlation, this is a positive correlation. So this is how, if you draw a pair plot, you will understand how the features are correlated. That is the importance point here. That is the importance I'm specifying. If you do the pair plot, you will understand how the features are correlated to each other. That's the importance of drawing a pair plot. This is on the IRIS dataset. Okay. So fine, we'll close here. Here you can see what is the training means. You are going to train, adjust the line to the data points. Initially, it will start from here. And when you are updating the MNC values, you are trying to fit the line exactly on the samples. This is called training. This is what happens in the training part. Okay, this is what happens in the training part. That's why you train your model. Here what you are doing, the same, you are using the y is equal to mx plus c formula, and you are updating, keep on updating m and c values. Okay, until the error is minimal. Try to think why we are saying error is minimum. How do you say that error is minimum? Try to think of this, and this we will see sample example we will see iris dataset in the evening class, and we will discuss. Okay, we'll discuss that. A classification technique we will discuss in the evening class. Fine? Clear? Any doubts? If you don't have any doubts, we'll stop here and we'll connect in the evening class. If you have any doubts, you can ask me.